The icy wind cut through the dark sky like sharp knives. The stars above were hidden behind thick black clouds. The frozen planet lay silent and empty. Except for one small figure struggling to stay alive, the alien girl stumbled through the snow, her thin clothes no match for the biting cold. Her breath came out in short, frozen clouds as she shivered. Her arms wrapped tightly around herself, but it did little to stop the chill. Her legs were weak, and she almost fell several times, but she forced herself to keep moving. She did not know where she was or how she got here. All she remembered was the cold, the pain, and the fear. Her heart pounded in her chest as she looked around for shelter. But all she could see was endless white and dark shapes of frozen trees. The night seemed to stretch forever, and loneliness pressed down on her like a heavy stone. She tried to call out, hoping someone would hear her, but her voice was barely a whisper, swallowed by the wind. She felt invisible and forgotten, like a lost star in a vast, empty sky. Tears mixed with the snow on her cheeks as she sank down on the frozen ground. Her body was weak from hunger and cold. She knew she could not last long alone in this harsh place. Her thoughts drifted to her home, to the warm light and familiar faces she once knew. But that life was gone now, taken away by enemies who chased her here. She had run for days, escaping danger, but now exhaustion was catching up. Suddenly, a faint light flickered in the distance, a small, warm glow that stood out against the dark night. Her eyes widened with hope and fear. Could it be help, or more danger? She wanted to believe it was rescue, but her heart warned her to be careful. Slowly, she stood up, trembling but determined. She moved toward the light step by step, each footfall crunching softly in the snow. Her mind raced with questions. Who was there? Would they hurt her? Could she trust them? As she drew closer, the light grew stronger, warm and steady. She saw the shape of a small cabin, smoke rising from its chimney. The smell of firewood filled the cold air for the first time in many hours. Her frozen heart felt a flicker of comfort. Suddenly, a shadow moved near the cabin door. A man stepped out, tall and strong, wearing heavy clothes made for the cold. His face was calm but curious as he looked at her. She froze for a moment. Unsure if he was friend or foe, the man took a slow step toward her, hands open to show no harm. His voice was gentle but clear. "Are you hurt? Do you need help?" he asked in a language she did not fully understand. But the kindness in his eyes spoke louder than words. The alien girl's body shook not from cold, but from the fear of trust. She wanted to say yes, but no sound came out. Instead, she nodded, weakly, unable to find strength for anything else. Without hesitation, the man reached out his hand and helped her to her feet. His touch was warm and safe. He led her inside the cabin where a fire burned bright. The warmth wrapped around her like a soft blanket, easing her frozen limbs. Inside, the cabin was small but cozy, filled with simple things: blankets, a wooden table, a pot hanging over the fire. The man moved quickly to bring her food and water. He spoke softly, using simple words and gestures to show he meant no harm. The alien girl took a small sip of the warm liquid, feeling it slide down her throat like a bomb. She ate slowly, too weak to finish much, but grateful for the kindness. Her eyes never left the man's face. Searching for truth and safety, hours passed in silence, broken only by the crackling fire. The storm outside howled like a wild animal, but inside the cabin, she felt protected. Yet the fear in her heart did not disappear. She knew this night was only the beginning of her struggle. The man watched her with quiet care. He did not ask many questions, giving her space to rest. But he stayed close, ready to defend her if needed. As the fire flickered low, the alien girl finally closed her eyes. For the first time since she landed on this frozen world, she allowed herself to hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, this human was different. Someone who could save her when no one else would. Outside, The cold and dark night stretched on. But inside the small cabin, a fragile light of trust began to grow, and for the first time, the alien girl was not alone. The cold wind still roared outside, but inside the small cabin, the air was warm and quiet. The fire crackled softly. Casting dancing shadows on the wooden walls, the alien girl sat on a rough blanket. Her thin body wrapped in a thicker cloth the human had given her. Her eyes watched the stranger carefully. Full of both fear and curiosity, the man moved calmly around the cabin, lighting more candles and preparing a simple meal. His hands were strong but gentle, showing no hurry or anger. He spoke softly in a language the girl did not know, but his tone was kind. He pointed to the food and smiled, hoping she would understand. The alien girl looked at the food with hunger and doubt. She had not eaten well for days, and the smell made her stomach ache with need. But her fear held her back. What if this was a trick? What if this human wanted to hurt her or hand her over to those who hunted her? She stayed silent, eyes wide and searching. The man noticed her fear and did not push. Instead, he sat down a little away from her and simply watched, his gaze steady and patient, as if waiting for her to decide. The night grew deeper, the storm outside shaking the cabin walls. The alien girl's teeth chattered not just from cold, but from the weight of her memories. She remembered the faces of those who chased her, the violence she barely escaped, and the lonely journey that had brought her here. Far from safety, the man reached into a bag and pulled out a small device that lit with soft blue light. He touched it and spoke slowly. "Name," he said, hoping she might say her name or understand the word. She shook her head silently, afraid to share too much. He nodded and then touched his own chest, saying, "Human." He pointed to her and said, "Alien." Then he smiled gently. "Safe here." The words were simple, but his meaning was clear. The meaning was clear. The alien girl studied him carefully. She saw no cruelty in his eyes, only concern. But her trust was fragile like thin ice over deep water. One wrong move and it could break, sending her back into fear. Hours passed slowly, the fire's warmth growing stronger. The man brought her a soft blanket and covered her carefully. Then he sat beside her, keeping watch. The alien girl finally let out a soft sigh and closed her eyes. But sleep did not come easy. Her mind raced with worry. She thought of the dangers lurking outside, hunters who would not stop until they found her. She wondered if the human would fight for her or give her up. But as she opened her eyes again, she saw him quietly cleaning his weapon by the fire. His movements careful and steady, ready to defend. At one point, she tried to speak. A small sound came from her lips, broken and uncertain. The man leaned closer and smiled, encouraging her. She took a deep breath and said a single word, "Home." The man's eyes softened. He nodded and said, "Safe home." And though they spoke different languages, a small bridge of understanding formed outside. The storm grew fiercer. Wind howled like wild wolves, and snow slammed against the cabin windows. But inside, the alien girl felt a small light of hope grow. She was no longer just a lost child on a frozen planet. She had shelter, warmth, and someone who cared. Still, fear did not vanish. The night was long, and the silence was heavy. She watched the human's face in the firelight, wondering what kind of man would take in a stranger from the stars. What did he want in return? Her past whispered warnings in her mind. No one helped for free. She had seen kindness turn into chains before. But the human only smiled softly and said, "Rest now." And for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to lean on him. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed outside. The cabin door shook under a strong push. The alien girl jumped to her feet, heart pounding. The man grabbed his weapon quickly and moved to the door. "Stay here," he said firmly, but she followed him quietly. not ready to be left alone. At the door, the man looked outside into the dark night. Shadows moved in the storm, fast and quiet. Something was coming, something dangerous. The man's voice was low, but strong. "Go back." He pushed the girl toward a small window at the rear of the cabin. She obeyed, her fear rising like fire in her chest. The door burst open with a heavy crash. Two figures stepped inside, covered in dark clothes and masks. The man raised his weapon and stood between them and the girl. A fierce fight began, the cabin filling with shouting and crashing. The alien girl watched, frozen but hopeful. This human was fighting for her life, and maybe, just maybe, he would win. The night was darker now. The storm outside had grown louder. Wind screamed like a wild beast, pounding the cabin walls with fierce power. Snow flew through the air like sharp needles, and the cold tried to creep inside every crack and corner. Inside the small cabin, the air was thick with tension. The man's eyes stayed alert as he checked the locks on the door. The alien girl sat close to the fire, her body still trembling, but this time, not only from the cold. Fear mixed with hope filled her heart in a strange way. She watched the human carefully, noticing how his hands shook just a little. Even though he tried to hide it, he was as tired and scared as she was, but he kept his strength. His quiet courage was like a shield around them both. Outside, the storm grew stronger. Howling winds pushed snow against the windows, making strange shapes in the darkness. The cabin creaked and moaned under the weight of the cold. It was as if the planet itself was trying to crush them. The alien girl tried to speak, her voice soft and broken. Cold, storm, danger. The man nodded and replied slowly, "Yes, storm bad, very bad." He pointed to the windows and then to her. "Stay inside." Safe. She understood and moved closer to the fire, but her eyes kept watching the door. The fear of the hunters still lived in her mind. She wondered if they would come back or if this storm would hide her from them. The man pulled out a small radio. He pressed buttons and spoke in a language she didn't know. She could hear his voice tense but strong. He was calling for help or warning others. The strange words filled the cabin with a new kind of hope and danger. Minutes passed slowly. The fire crackled and popped. The alien girl's thoughts raced. She thought of her home, far away, a place of light and laughter, now replaced by cold and fear. The man noticed her sadness. He reached out and gently touched her hand. It's a simple act, but it made her heart skip. She looked up and saw kindness in his eyes, something she had not seen in a long time. Suddenly, the cabin door shook violently. The wind pushed it hard. The man stood quickly and moved to hold it closed, his body tense and ready. The alien girl held her breath, listening to the wild storm, and waiting for the danger to come. Then, from outside, a low growl rose through the night. Not the storm, but something else, something alive and close. The man's grip tightened on the door, his eyes sharp and fierce. "Stay back," he whispered. "Danger." The alien girl felt frozen, but she trusted him. She stepped away from the door and sat near the fire, her heart pounding like a drum. Suddenly, the windows rattled. Shadows flickered outside, and footsteps moved quietly around the cabin. Someone was watching them, waiting for a chance. The man grabbed a small knife from the table, his breath steady but hard. He moved to the back door silently, checking for any sign of intruders. The alien girl wanted to help but was too weak. She sat still and whispered a prayer to the stars, hoping they would protect them both. Outside, the storm was a mask for danger, the cold hiding secrets, and the man knew they could not stay here long. The shelter was safe for now, but soon they must move. He turned back to the girl, his voice calm but serious. "We must leave soon," he said. "Too dangerous here." She nodded, her mind racing with Questions: where would they go? Could she trust this human to keep her safe? Was there really a chance for a future beyond fear? The man prepared a small bag with supplies, food, water, a blanket, and the blue light device. He handed it to her gently. "Take this," he said. "Help you." The alien girl took it, her fingers brushing his hand. A spark of connection passed between them, a silent promise to survive together. The storm outside was growing fiercer, but inside the cabin, a fragile hope glowed. Two souls, lost and scared, finding warmth in the cold darkness. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed behind the cabin. The man's eyes flashed with alarm. He grabbed his weapon and moved quickly outside. The alien girl followed, her heart racing. In the storm's white fury, shapes moved fast, but the man's steady voice called out, "Stop." A group of figures stumbled in the snow hunters, searching, but the man stood tall, ready to fight, ready to protect. The alien girl felt fear and courage mix inside her. This was her chance to fight for life, to trust in the human who had taken her. In the cold and dark night held many dangers, but together they would face them all. The storm had passed, but the night was still deep and cold. The sky was clearer now, showing faint stars far above the frozen land. Inside the cabin, the fire's glow was soft and warm, casting long shadows that danced on the walls. The alien girl sat near the window, her eyes wide and watchful, though the hunters had gone. She knew the danger was not over. Something whispered in her heart a warning she could not ignore. The human watched her quietly. He could see the fear and sadness behind her eyes. He wanted to help, but he knew words were not enough. There were secrets she carried. Heavy like the cold night, she turned to him slowly, her voice barely a whisper. "Why? You help." Her words were broken, but full of truth. The man smiled gently and replied, "Because no one should be alone in the dark." The alien girl looked away, memories flooding her mind, the moment she lost her family, the betrayal of those she were trusted, and the long, lonely journey to this strange place. She wanted to tell him everything, but the fear held her back. Fear of being hurt again. Fear of being taken away. That night, as the fire crackled low, she noticed a soft sound outside the window. Shadows moved in the forest nearby, and strange whispers floated on the cold wind. She pressed her hand to the glass, her heart racing. Someone was watching them, waiting for the right moment to strike. The man saw her fear and moved close. He placed a hand on her shoulder, steady and strong, his voice calm. "We are not safe yet," he said. "We must be ready." Together, they made plans in the dim light. The man showed her how to hold a weapon, how to listen for danger in the silence, how to trust but stay cautious. The alien girl learned quickly, her fear turning slowly into quiet strength. She practiced moving without sound, watching the shadows, waiting for the secret threats hidden in the night. That night, the human shared a secret of his own. He told her of a place far from the cold, a place where she might be safe, where others like her lived without fear. She listened with hope and doubt. The idea of safety was a fragile dream, but it sparked a fire inside her, a reason to keep moving forward. Suddenly, the fire flickered, and a soft sound came from the cabin door. Both froze, listening. A small figure stood there, an alien child with bright eyes. She looked scared and tired, but her eyes shone with something fierce. The man opened the door slowly, inviting the child inside. The alien girl watched, her heart beating fast. The child spoke in a language strange but familiar. She looked at the girl and said one word: family. The alien girl felt tears fill her eyes. For the first time, she was not alone, not just because of the human, but because of this small stranger, a piece of her past come back. The cabin filled with soft voices. Hope growing like a quiet flame. The night no longer felt so cold or dark, but outside. The forest whispered secrets, and the watchers waited, their eyes hungry and cruel. Ready to take what was not theirs, the human stood firm, his weapon ready, his heart determined to protect this fragile family. The alien girl looked to him and whispered, "Thank you," and in that moment, she knew the fight was only just beginning, but she would face it, with new strength, new hope, and those who stood beside her. The night was still, but the air was thick with tension. Inside the small cabin, the fire burned low, casting flickering shadows that seemed to move on their own. The alien girl sat close to the human, her eyes wide and alert. They both knew danger was near. The forest outside held silent watchers, hunters waiting for the right moment to strike. Their presence felt like cold breath on the back of the neck. The man checked his weapon again, his hands steady but his heart pounding. He glanced at the girl and gave a small nod, a silent promise to protect her no matter what. Suddenly, the quiet was broken by a sharp crack. The sound of breaking wood. The cabin door splintered as heavy hands forced it open. Dark figures rushed inside like shadows come to life. The man stepped forward, weapon raised, his voice loud and fierce. "Stay behind me," he shouted, standing between the intruders and the girl. The alien girl felt her heart jump. Fear and adrenaline mixed inside her. But she did not run or hide. Instead, she stood frozen, watching the fight unfold. The attackers were fast and skilled, but the man was quicker. He moved like a shadow himself, blocking blows and striking back with careful force. One of the attackers lunged toward the girl, but the man caught the arm and pushed the attacker away, his eyes burning with determination. The alien girl grabbed a nearby piece of wood, her hands shaking but ready. She swung at another attacker. Surprising herself with the strength she found, the cabin became a storm of noise. Shouts, crashes, and the clash of weapons. The fire flickered wildly as the struggle raged. Suddenly, a loud crash knocked over the table, sending food and supplies flying. The man and the alien girl stumbled, but neither gave up. The attackers started to retreat, realizing the man would not give in easily. They hissed threats and vanished into the stormy night. The man breathed hard, but smiled at the girl. "You did well," he said quietly. "I will protect you." Always, the alien girl felt tears in her eyes, not just from fear, but from hope. Hope that she was not alone anymore. Hope that this human was her shield in the dark. But the battle had left its mark. The cabin was damaged, the fire was low, and cold crept back in. The man quickly gathered the broken wood. He worked fast to repair the door, while the alien girl tended to a small cut on her hand, her fingers trembling but healing. They knew this was only the beginning. The hunters would come again, and next time, they might be stronger, more prepared. The man looked out the window, his eyes sharp and searching. He whispered, "We must move soon." Before they returned, the alien girl nodded, her fear mixed with a new resolve. She was learning to fight, to survive, to trust in the stranger who had become her protector. That night, as the wind howled outside, they made plans for escape, gathering supplies and weapons, readying themselves for the journey ahead. The storm outside was fierce, but inside, a quiet strength grew. Two lost souls bound by fate, ready to face the darkness together. The alien girl looked at the man and whispered, "Thank you," and he smiled back, knowing their fight was far from over. But for now, they had each other, and that was enough to face the cold night ahead. The cold morning sun barely touched the frozen ground as the alien girl and the human prepared to leave the broken cabin behind, their breath coming out in white clouds in the icy air. The forest around them was silent, but heavy with unseen eyes. Danger still hunted them like a shadow, dark and close. The man checked his weapon and supplies carefully, his gaze sharp, never resting. The alien girl wrapped her thin cloak tighter around her, her heart still trembling from the night's attack. But a new feeling stirred inside her hope. Fragile but real, they moved quietly through the trees. Soft snow muffling their footsteps, the man led the way with steady confidence. The alien girl followed, watching the strange forest with wide eyes. Suddenly, a noise broke the silence. Soft cry, barely heard over the wind. The girl stopped and looked back. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. The man nodded and motioned for silence. They both listened carefully. The sound coming again, more clear now. They followed the cry through the trees until they found a small clearing. And there, huddled against a tree, was another alien, a young woman, hurt and tired, her clothes torn and dirty. Her eyes wary but filled with relief when she saw them. The man stepped forward slowly. "Who are you?" he asked gently. The woman looked at the alien girl first, then at the man, and said softly, "Alone." "Hunted." Her voice cracked with fear and pain. The alien girl moved closer, her heart aching with understanding. She reached out and took the stranger's hand, a silent promise of trust and help. The man nodded. "We will help you," he said firmly. "Come with us." The new alien's eyes filled with tears. She nodded and allowed herself to be led away. From the clearing, the three of them, now a fragile group against the cold and danger. As they walked, the stranger told small pieces of her story. She was from a nearby world. Captured and escaped from hunters like those who chased the alien girl. She knew the forest and the dangers well, and she had a secret path that could lead them to safety. The man listened closely, trusting her knowledge, but cautious of lies. The alien girl watched them both, hope growing stronger inside her. That night, they made camp in a hidden cave, protected by thick rocks and the forest's shadows. The new alien helped build the fire and prepare food, her skills clear and valuable. The three sat around the fire, sharing quiet moments of warmth and safety. The alien girl looked at the new companion and saw a reflection of herself, scared, broken, but still fighting. The man spoke softly. "We cannot stay long," he said. "Hunters will come again, but with this path, we might find safety soon." The alien girl nodded, feeling the weight of their journey ahead, but also a strange comfort in their small family. Together, they had a better chance to survive. Suddenly, a noise outside the cave made them freeze. Shadows moved in the dark, slow and quiet. The man grabbed his weapon. The new alien stood ready, and the girl's heart pounded, but instead of enemies, a small animal appeared, a strange, furry creature with bright eyes. It sniffed the air, curious but not afraid. The tension eased, and the firelight flickered gently. The alien girl reached out slowly. The creature came closer, and for a moment, the cold world felt a little warmer, a small sign of hope in the endless night. The man smiled faintly. "Even here, there is life," he said. "Even here, there is hope." The three of them settled down to rest, but the dangers of the forest were never far, and the journey to safety was still long and full of unknowns. The alien girl looked at her companions and whispered, "We fight together," and they nodded in return, ready to face whatever came next. The first light of dawn broke over the frozen horizon, painting the sky with soft colors of pink and gold. The cold was still biting, but the air felt different now, lighter, full of promise and new hope. The alien girl stood at the edge of the forest, her breath visible in the crisp morning air. Beside her, the human looked toward the distant mountains, where safety, freedom, and a new life waited. They had come so far, fought so hard, and lost much along the way, but now, standing together, they were ready for whatever lay ahead. The small group moved slowly, but with purpose. The new alien companion leading them on the secret path. The snow crunched softly beneath their feet, and the forest seemed to watch silently. As if wishing them well as they walked, the alien girl looked back once more, toward the dark cabin they left behind. Memories of cold nights and danger filled her mind, but the fear that once ruled her heart was fading. She glanced at the human. His face calm and strong, his eyes filled with quiet kindness. And she knew she was no longer alone. The man stopped and reached out his hand. Offering it to her, she took it without hesitation. Their fingers intertwined a simple bond, but one, full of meaning and trust. Further ahead, the trees began to thin, and the snowy landscape opened up to a wide valley. The sun warmed the ground, and strange buildings rose against the sky, a safe haven, a new home for those like her. The alien girl's heart soared, a feeling she had not known in a long time, a chance for peace, for family, for a future. They entered the valley carefully, watching for danger, but none came. The people here welcomed them with open arms, offering food, shelter, and smiles. The alien girl felt tears come to her eyes, not of sorrow, but of relief and joy. She was finally safe, finally free. The human stood beside her, watching her find hope again. He had risked everything to protect her, and now he was part of her. New life, days passed, and the alien girl learned to live in this new world. Making friends, healing old wounds. She told stories of the man who saved her, and of the strength she found in the coldest night. The man stayed close, not just as a protector, but as a friend and companion, their bond growing deeper with each passing day. One evening, under the bright stars, the alien girl looked at the human and smiled. "Thank you," she whispered, "for saving me, for believing in me." He smiled back. "Together, we are stronger." He said simply, "Together, we can face anything." The frozen planet was far behind them now, replaced by a world of light and warmth, and a future full of promise. The alien girl was no longer shivering, alone, or vulnerable. She was alive, loved, and ready for the journey ahead. A new beginning had come, and with it, hope that would never fade.